everybody? The Girl of Steel is back. It's your boy Icon, and we are here to cover the return of your favorite Kryptonian daughter. So, in our last episode, which was shoot, I don't even remember when the last episode of Supergirl was. It's been a minute, and there was a lot of things that I forgot. Like I forgot. Well, I mean, I remember that they got her out of the Phantom Zone. I forgot about the whole thing with the Phantom Dreams and everything. So, I mean, this episode was entitled Welcome Back, Kara. But the way things were going, this episode should have been called Trauma, because there was a lot of trauma going on in the house of the Super Friends. So let's start with Kara. So right out the gate, when she returned, she was laying on a bed. She woke up from having a bad dream because Kara has serious PTSD from the time that she spent in the Phantom Zone. And she doesn't want to talk about it, which when we got to the point where, because Alex tried to console her, and then she was just like, oh, are you having a bad dream about the Phantom Zone? Kara was like, I don't want to talk about it. And then that's when I realized, I was like, Kelly's not here, because, Kelly is, like she deals with trauma. She has she's a I believe she is a psychiatrist, but Kelly's whole thing is like dealing with people's personal issues and their personal trauma. So Kelly would be the perfect person to actually have a sit down with Kara and talk to her and help her work through all her grief and all of her trauma. But for that purpose, they conveniently didn't have Kelly on the show today, which was very sad. And no Magan either. Like, I miss what are black women at? Like I actually miss having Magan. Magan and Kelly. So Kara's trying to get herself back into the world, and she's trying to figure things out, but at the same time she's trying to ignore her Phantom Zone PTSD. So she goes back to work, and when she gets to work, she, remember Dreamer had told Andrea Rojas, I miss her too, I like Andrea. Like, she told Andrea that Kara was like overseas talking to like some radical freedom fighter, or somebody like that, and then she was gone for a long time, and like Dreamer had to cover for her for a long time. And, Kara even said herself, she was like, yo, I'm surprised I still have a job for as long as I've been away. But then because of the lie that Dreamer told with the type of story that Kara was chasing, that's why Andrea actually didn't fire her. For some reason, she brought her dad to Catco. I don't know why she brought her daddy to Catco. And they dressed him up in traditional House of L nerd attire. And they even called him Uncle Arthur. Yeah, like Uncle Archie. They called him Uncle Archie. And he was just walking around Catco like it was all good. He was like lifting up copy machines and everything, and then Dreamer, it was weird because Dreamer was the one who was babysitting him, and I'm just like, that's Kara's uncle, so why is Dreamer the one, like that has to watch him? And I'm like, if that's the case, you shouldn't even have brought him here to begin with, because it didn't even serve a purpose of having him there, other than the comedic aspect of him trying to get himself acclimated to, like, how humans think in like human life. So then, so Kara's talking to Andrea, and then she told Andrea, was like, oh, how's the story going? And then Kara was like, well, the story fell through because the freedom fighter guy, like, he didn't want to go on record because he was trying to keep his identity a secret, blah blah blah. And then Andrea was just like, so basically, bitch, you took 6 months off of the job and you came back and you have absolutely nothing to show for it. So she was like, okay, you owe me because I should have fired your ass. Catco's dipping, like we're number 8 on the polls. She's like, we're being beat out by the Daily Planet. The Daily Planet reference is funny, but seeing as how Superman and Lois no longer work for the Daily Planet, it's kind of like, it's the connection's not there anymore. I would have died if Andrea said something like, oh, we're the number 8, social media outlet, for the public. There are 7 other places that are better than us. And if she would have said, and then there's this new place called the Smallville Gazette that's in the 5th position, I would have died, because that's where Lois works now if you watch Superman and Lois. So, but then Andrea told her, she was like, listen, you need to give me a story. And it has to be good. It has to be something that can propel us back into the number 1 spot. She said, I want you to do a story on all the people who suffered due to the Phantom attacks and all the lives that were lost and everything that was, and all the things that were taken. And then she said, because you do have a connect, because you're cool with Supergirl, you're friends with Supergirl, doing an interview with Supergirl, because no one's spoken to Supergirl in a long time. No one's got to sit down. You can get us that sit down and get us back on top. Now, because of that, Kara was just like, first of all, what Phantom attack? Because since she was in the Phantom Zone, she missed like the first 6 episodes of her own show. So she went to Dreamer and she was just like, yo, why y'all ain't tell me that people were trapped in the Phantom, like Phantoms were like flying around National City? And then Dreamer was like, Alice told us not to burden you with that. And she was like, plus it doesn't matter anymore because it's over. She's like, we settled that whole situation. Like, we squashed that beef. But then she was like, we kind of caused it, when we were trying to save you. And then Kara was like, oh, so all those people suffered because of me. And I hate when they do that. I'm like, you know better than that. But then, she was just like, all right, she was just like, don't worry about it. She was like, we took care of it. Just do the story. But she doesn't want to do the story because because she even said earlier in the episode, she was like, yo, I don't even want to hear the word Phantom. She was like, I don't want to hear the Phantom Menace. I don't want to hear like the Phantom Strikes Back. She was like, anytime the word Phantom comes up, she's just automatically like triggered. So, but she ended up coming up with a different story where she found out that Lex Luthor was illegally dumping, like metal computers, like any sort of technology, satellites, because basically like because he was using the DEO and he was corrupting the DEO, he tried to dispose of all the waste after the building exploded so nobody could trace anything back to him. So she wanted to do a story about that, exposing Lex Luthor for the illegal dumping. But then Andrea was just like, yeah, that's a good idea, and I'm gonna have William do that story because William, he's back in the picture, he's dating somebody new now, so he ain't messing with Kara no more. And she gave William the story and told him to chase it and told Kara to get her ass back on that Supergirl story, like with the whole Phantoms. So now, moving forward to somebody else. So now her father, like he's trying, again, like Zor-El, he's trying to, again, get himself like acclimated into the whole thing. He's absorbing the power. He's flying. He's helping Kara out on missions. He helped her stop one of the satellites that was crashing to Earth, which caused the whole like Lex Luthor thing. And he's suffering with his own PTSD as well, because while he's trying to learn about, Earthlings, the planet that adopted her daughter and, like gave her daughter a home, he ends up like looking through some stuff, and then he comes back and he tells everybody, he's like, oh, do you know that your oceans are dirty and that your skies are polluted and, like deforestation is happening and like your ecosystem is out of whack? And everybody kind of look at him like, yeah. And then he's like, that's exactly what happened on Krypton, which is why Krypton fell. And, he's like, we must do something about it. And he's like, it's just like so funny because like he's frantically like, I mean, these are serious issues. These are serious like world issues, but we're kind of like used to it and we're used to like dealing with it or trying to deal with it. But for him, when he saw it, he just went into this whole like, oh, it's Krypton all over again and I must do something to save it. So Kara ends up bringing him to the Fortress of Solitude. He bumps into Kalex, and then he ends up using Kalex. He turned Kalex into a robot that can take garbage and waste, dispose of it, but then create it into energy. And when he came up with the robot, he was telling them like, oh, this robot will solve your problems and everything. He's like, we won't let what happened to Krypton happen to happen to your planet. And John was just like, okay, that's a good idea. But he was like, you kind of need to like test the thing first because we don't want any problems, because we're using different types of alien technology and anything can happen. Like I said, we really don't want anything to happen. But he was so desperate to try to fix the mistakes that he made with Krypton. He was like, no, the robot will work. And then, he ended up sending the robot out there. Kalex started like cleaning up the garbage, and then everybody was like, it was working. But then Lena Luthor showed up. God, I missed her. Lena Luthor showed up, and then Lena showed up, and she was just like, first of all, if Kalex converts, the energy, if he converts the garbage into energy, she's like, the energy has to go somewhere. It just doesn't disappear into the planet. And then, what happened was she said that Kalex's core started overloading to the point where all the garbage started magnetizing itself to Kalex, because again, like she said, like all that energy has to go somewhere. So, but it turned him into like a magnet where like it magnetized all the garbage, and then everything, and then like his core started to, to heat up, and then they got to a point where they like, listen, we need to do something. And then, I believe it was Lena that came up. She was just like, oh, we can create a virus that can, I think it was Brandy or Lena. They were just like, oh, we have to create a virus that can, disrupt the program, and then we got to lower his core temperature. But then, like Zor-El, he was just like, no, he was like, we need Kalex to help save your planet. And then, they were just like, yeah, but it's about to explode any second now. And if it explodes, that'll hurt people and that'll destroy the planet. So we have to destroy it. And then Zor-El was like, no, I won't let what happened to he was just like, no, what did he say? He was like, no, damn it. He was like, we need it to save Krypton. And everybody kind of looked at him like, yo, somebody get Kara Daddy. And then he was just like, oh, I've been a fool. And he was like, go ahead and do your virus. And then, they do the virus. So then the whole Supergirl gang, the Super Friends show up, minus Miss Martian. And, when they, Kara put the costume on because they said that there was like traces of kryptonite in the DEO, which is of course because the DEO had kryptonite. They end up fighting the garbage monster. Brainy gets sucked up by the garbage monster. He uploads the virus. The virus takes effect, and then they end up saving Kalex and pulling him out of the wreckage. Kara takes the garbage monster and throws him into the sun. And I'm like, you should just do that with all the world's garbage. And then, then everybody comes home. Kara and his daddy her daddy, they have a conversation. And then he's like, oh, it's time I go back to Algo City to look my wife in the eyes. And I'm like, yeah, bro, like, you sitting here that like, if it was me, if I've been trapped in the Phantom Zone for 40 years and I find out my wife is still alive, the first place I'm going is to go see my wife. But he said that he didn't want to do it because he was ashamed because he's feeling the weight of like, I didn't save Krypton. He's like, how can I look my wife in the eyes knowing that I failed all planet? But I'm like, bro, you built Argo City, like you saved her and all the people that live there. And he was like, it's time I stop hiding from my shame and go see my wife and look her dead in the eyes and tell her that I'm sorry. And then her and Kara had a nice little conversation, and then they hugged each other, and then I believe it was Brainy, he took her daddy back to Argo City. Alex is also suffering PTSD because when Kara got trapped in the Phantom Zone, like Alex lost her complete shit. And now she has like this built-in fear every time Kara is in trouble, because at one point during the fight when she was trying to fight the garbage monster had knocked her out, and then as soon as the garbage monster knocked Kara out, like Alex just lost it. So so now Alex is struggling with like trying to be overly protective now, so we got to watch out for that as the season progresses, because I know at this point we all heard what happens to Kelly at some point during the season, and if Alex has an issue with Kara going out into the field fighting crime, she's gonna lose her shit when Kelly starts doing it, and then Lena and Dreamer, they had a conversation at one point because Dreamer was feeling some kind of way about the fact that Kara got her father back and that she misses her mom, and then Lena was just like, yes, I miss my mother too, and then the two of them they were bonding over it. And then at the end of the episode, Lena decided she was going to go to her birth city, go to the place where she was born, to go find out more things about the mother that she never knew. Dreamer ended up having like some weird dream vision where she woke up in her sleep, and I don't know what that has to do with anything, but it's obviously going to have something to do with her mom, because this whole thing is focused on her and her mom at some, like her meeting her mom. She's going to see her mom in a dream at some point. Like, let's just get that over with. Andrea Rojas, in a desperate attempt to try to come up with some big news, she still has the medallion. And I'm like, I forgot about that because Oliver Queen rebooted the universe. Like, she still actually has her hands on the medallion. So she can still turn into that shadow ninja-like creature where she broke into Lex Luthor's house to try to find some dirt on Lex Luthor. But when she was going through Luthor's stuff, she saw that Lex had pictures of Alex, had pictures of Kara, had pictures of Jean. And then it dawned on Andrea, and she said this to William. She said, instead of us doing reports on, looking into Lex Luthor and trying to expose Lex Luthor, she said, let's do the reports on the people who constantly stop Lex Luthor. And she told William, she's like, I want you to get an interview with Supergirl and the rest of her super friends. And William was just like, I don't know how that's going to happen. He's like, because he's a superhuman being. And then she was just like, yo, just figure it out, bro, otherwise you're fired. So so we're going to have William now investigating the super friends, and I'm just like, why has no one ever thought of that before? Like, everybody's always focused on like, like the bad guys. Nobody ever tries to talk to the good guys. There are so many heroes on this planet now. Like, there's Batwoman, there's Flash, there's Black Lightning, there's Superman, like there's Supergirl, like, the legends, they traveling through time. But I'm like, how does no one not get an interview with these people? Kara even dropped an Iris Rust line because when Kara was trying to do her story, trying to do her report on the whole Phantom situation before her and Alex had a cry together, she even mentioned, she was like, oh, I saw an article that Iris had wrote about Central City Strong, because remember in the last season on The Flash, Central City Strong was like the first episode. That's what everything was about, so and I like those references. But if we're doing Flash references, I'm gonna need Kara to bring up the fact that her grandmama Kent passed away and she missed the funeral. So so that was it, and thank you for tuning in. I'm happy Supergirl is back, and it's sad because this is the final episode. Like, that actually sucks that completely sucks. Like, I'm not happy about that, but hopefully going forward we get some of these characters in other series, because Alex and Kelly need to be on somebody's show. I don't know who show, like, and Jean, like, I mean, I can do without Brainy, I can do without Dreamer. Alex, Kelly, Jean, and I'm forgetting one more person. I'm forgetting one more person, but and Lena. Alex, Kelly, Jean, and Lena, and Lex. The 5 of them need to be on someone else's show, because they're like some of the best characters. But like I said, share your thoughts below. Now that Supergirl's back, it's like, what do you think? Like, are you happy? Like, Supergirl's back? Are you sad that the show's ending? That we're coming to the final. This is the final season. We're actually in the final stretch of Supergirl. What do you think about Mix S Pitalik, like the female fifth interdimensional imp that snuck her way back on the rocket ship? You know, do we get any cameos? Do we get any, like, you know, surprises from any other characters on the show? And how it all ends. When The Flash has its 5-episode crossover event to start next season, is Supergirl even a part of it? And how does Supergirl season end? My prediction, like I said before, Supergirl ends with Supergirl going to Argo City to live with both of her parents. That's my thing, but we'll see what happens. So like I said, thanks a lot for tuning in. Check me out on social media. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram. Like I said, hit me up on YouTube. Hit the notification bell because I got a lot of videos coming out for all the DC and Marvel superhero shows, so we can all get together and talk about it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Until next time, for the Girl of Steel, it's still up, and away, and I'm up this.